Welcome to Insights from Elsewhere. My name is Cintia Portugal. I am Brazilian and I live in São Paulo, Brazil. We created this podcast to go beyond the big markets of North America and Western Europe. We want to dig deeper and understand about the insights field in Latam, Asia, Africa, and elsewhere. We are aiming to find how people are doing research there, their experience with research technology, how they influence headquarters with local knowledge and local nuances and insights. And of course, we want to learn some curiosities about those regions. Today, I'm talking with Nyambura Mambo. She's the head of market research and customer insights at Safaricom, Kenya's largest mobile network operator and a major player in East Africa telecommunications as well. It's actually a 3 billion company, and she's based in Nairobi. She has many years of experience from Sinovate and Coca-Cola, where she worked for a while and even in different roles. Welcome to Insights from Elsewhere. It's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for making the time. I know you're in a busy, very busy week.
Thank you for having me, Cynthia. Good afternoon or good morning.
Good morning.
Depending on your region. Happy to make the time, and thank you really for having me. Happy to have this discussion.
That's wonderful. So let's start, Nyambura. Tell me about your journey into market research. How did you get where you are today?
Okay, it's about 20 years of market research career. But of course, it didn't start off there. It started off with my studies, just choosing the right subject. But as I say, for most of us, slightly older researchers, we stumbled onto market research because it's not a very clearly defined career path until now when we're making some efforts. And I'll tell you about that a little bit later. So I studied economics and mathematics, and I specialized in economics. And so it was an easy way into research, actually. But initially, I thought I would get into economics research. Yeah. So, and be with maybe the NGOs or, World Bank and all that. I did get into a little bit of management consultancy, and that was my very first interaction with market research.
Wow.
And I was still doing my master's then at the university. And it was a short stint, and I realized, there's something called market research, like that informs strategy and big decisions that companies make. And so I happened to also stumble onto an advert by the Stedman Group, which is now called Ipsos,
Yes.
but it transitioned fast into Sinovate. I happened to apply, and I landed the job. Thank God for having the right subjects, trying out, exploring, but also just attitude of curiosity. Since then, I was employed at the Stedman Group, worked in client service, and I started off at the very bottom of the basics of research, which I really thank God for that, because then I know the end-to-end research. I've done interviewing, I've done, questionnaire design, and then of course I went into client service. And eventually, managed a whole portfolio of what we used to call branded solutions then at the Sinovate Group. After a good stint at Sinovate, I was able to transition to the client side at the Coca-Cola company. I spent 12 and a half years at Coca-Cola and really grounding myself in the research skills and trying to understand, when we send out this research report, how does a client working through this? And it was such a breath of fresh air, because I remember many times we could send out reports when at the agency side, we could send out reports. And some clients would take us along in terms of working through the insights and how they get into action. So getting to the Coca-Cola side now, I was at the heart of it, and I really, really enjoyed it. I worked on, adopting. Coca-Cola has a lot of already designed protocols. The workshop phase and really turning insights into action was an opportunity I had. I actually got a global award on the same, on converting insights into action. I actually got 2 global awards. even for one campaign that we won. And the campaign was really pegged on localized insights.
Congrats. That's
And it
wonderful.
was called Billion Reasons to Believe in Africa. Really still proud of the work that we did then. I managed a number of markets while still at Coca-Cola from a market research perspective. At some point, having about 13 markets to handle from a market research perspective, and at some point, 16 markets as well, covering Kenya and the East Africa region. Then at some point also covered the central region, which I would say DRC, Congo-Brazzaville, and also a bit of the Western, so covering Cameroon, Nigeria. We also covered the island, Mauritius, Madagascar, a completely different part of Africa. And at some point also covered the southern markets, excluding South Africa, even though I also I had a view of what was happening in South Africa, but we had someone else covering that South Africa market on its own. So very different experiences there, and centrally managing, seated in Nairobi. And of course, working with trusted agencies, trusted experts also across markets. At the 10th year within Coca-Cola, I transitioned from market research into channels, the channels organization, which covers route to market, shopper. I started handling what we call traditional trade. At some point, I also covered the modern trade and the restaurants, bars. So I typically became a real research user. I was not producing the research and the insights. I became a research user. And it really opened my eyes even more on what matters in a report, what matters in the data. When I think about how, even up to today, how I think about a questionnaire when I'm guiding my team, it's not a matter of having 30 questions. It's a matter of what exactly will this team use the research for, and ensuring that we capture that. Within Coca-Cola, I also moved to revenue growth management, which then covers a bit of the pricing, the product, packaging. So just trying to look for opportunities on revenue optimization. And of course, a core skill there was also research and data analytics. So I've been enjoying the journey all along.
Amazing.
And then most recently, about a year and a half ago, I then joined the biggest technology/telecommunications company in Africa, being Safaricom. Given that this is a global podcast, I think I should say M-Pesa, because it's the one that is really known globally. We're currently transitioning from just being a telecommunications company to being a technology company. So from telco to technology, and really expanding our products and services. So I'm now in telecommunications, at the heart of where things change literally every single day. Every single day, because just imagine technology. Yes, we are able to sit, in Brazil or a different part of the world, and I'm here in Kenya at the heart of Africa, and we can have a conversation because of technology. And tomorrow, we might not be talking podcasts. It might be something else. It changes literally every single day, and that's what we're working with. So happy to be part of innovation and keep the brain young. That's been my journey.
I have so many questions. It's a wonderful journey, and congrats on everything you've achieved. I was thinking about the time when I lived in London. It was early 2000, and I would speak to my mom once a week, because you wouldn't call mobiles or anything. It was a different era in terms of communication. So I do understand the changes you were talking about, and how this is an area of a lot of innovation. When you think about, you mentioned that you worked in both Coca-Cola, like in trade or revenue growth, like different roles from directly working in insights. But do you think your previous experience shaped how you did these roles, how you managed those roles?
Yeah, absolutely. It made such a big difference, because I'm sure you and I, Cynthia, would agree to this, that, when you send a report full of insights, you've done your 100% on it, and it lands on a user who doesn't understand how to use insight, can actually really just pain you, because then at the end of the day, you can see the strategy is not taking the form that it's supposed to take. And so when I did the revenue growth management role, when I influenced strategy as well at Coca-Cola, when I moved into channels, it really was the backbone of every decision that, that we made. Think about how big traditional trade is in
Wow.
Africa. And maybe I would just even pull out Kenya particularly. And this is just what people call an organized trade. But we had a retail audit that was running. We had what we used to call right execution daily, which is a measure of our standards of execution, which then speaks to, are we executing our picture of success the way it's supposed to be? And me being able to understand that, then I would be able to influence what exactly is being placed within a specific store, within a specific region. Because then I could also understand, what do customers really want? And balance it off with also what the business wants, right? Because there's a customer bit, and then there's also what the business wants. Because sometimes when you have a new product, like an innovation, the company wants, or the brand wants to push a new innovation. The customer does not know this, but it was built off of insights that we saw. And so we're able to say, for this particular product, for this particular pack or SKU, we need to place it in region X. And, that helps. But also it's what I would tell other researchers. Research is not, it's science, but it's also art. And so we really must be iterative, right? So it's not an absolute science. It's not, we're not doing surgery on a child or a human being. Sometimes we can go out and do research with our customers, and 3 months down the line, maybe we send out a new SKU, a new product, and things change quite quickly. It doesn't mean that the results were not representative. Something could have happened. And so we really must allow ourselves to say, that's not valid anymore. We need to change. Think how every research that we did before COVID.
Wow.
After
It's a
COVID,
different
we
world.
just say, yes, completely different world. Yeah. And another example I would give is like what happened in Kenya last year. We are just about to get a year now, June 25th. The Gen Zs made a revolution, right? And, they went out to the markets to protest against what they didn't feel was right within our country, including the leadership and all. But it really questioned who the Gen Zs are and the definition of Gen Zs.
Man.
Before that, we used to say Gen Zs really don't care much about, they think they care for themselves. They're very individualistic. June 25th made us rethink, because they got together and they were going there for a common good, right? It really made us redefine who Gen Zs are, even as we're, talking to business. Yeah, my advice, of course, to fellow researchers, old and upcoming, let's be flexible, use research, but it's not an exact science, right? So it's indicative, and sometimes you must also use the art and the gut to also inform decisions. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't do research. Definitely, you need the customer voice in the room to make the decisions.
It's amazing, Nyambura, because I worked in several companies as a client as well. And I remember having the same conversations like, come on, let's base the decision on the research. So I remember working together with marketing teams and finance teams and trade and whatever, and trying to say, look, the research is not set on stone. You don't need to do everything it says, but base the decisions you do on what you hear from the consumers, because that's where the value is. You have experience in many countries. Like, what is unique about market research in Kenya that you haven't seen in any other countries?
Okay, so Kenya is an interesting country. So let me talk tech, because that's, I'm in the heart of tech right now. We leapfrog on our tech journey. And I can tell you, we very quick adopters to technology. So today, the penetration of smartphones and internet as well is very, very high. But let me bring in the research angle. Many researchers who come from, an external perspective will look at the statistics. And of course, nowadays we have chat GPT and DeepSeek, and they'll give, very high number, above the 70%. And they will assume that because of the internet penetration being so high and also the mobile phone penetration being high, that we can actually do comfortably mobile-based interviews and cover the country nationally, which unfortunately is not the case, right? So this makes Kenya very, very unique. So on the one hand, we adopted very quickly technology or mobile devices. And if you look at internet penetration, above 90%. But on the other hand, we are also our affordability challenged market. And so the devices that in people's hands are mostly what we call feature phones, right? And not smart devices. So when you start thinking from a research perspective of doing a survey on mobile, then maybe it has to be SMS based, which we do, right? Because then the feature phone can pick that. But now when you want to do a bit more advanced, where there's more interaction and you need kind of a smartphone or even like a real-time, focus groups with a video on, that becomes a bit more complex. So that's unique about Kenya. Statistics showing high penetration, good run from a digital perspective, but then there's some realities I would need, to consider. Like many countries in Africa, there's a whole very clear divide in terms of socioeconomic class. So when you think about, if you visit Nairobi and you visit maybe a little bit of the Mombasa, which is, one other city, it can be very deceiving because we still have about 70% of our customers, consumers, or the population who are below the middle lower to low. So socioeconomic class C2, DE, if we use the traditional ways of classifying. And so, if you focus on the urban, you might leave a whole 70% of the population. If you test in the urban cities, do your research in the urban cities. So for example, if you're introducing a product and you decide to just do quick product placement within a specific cluster in urban, you'll miss a whole, 70 or so % of the rural customer. So it depends. Well, if your product is supposed to be just for the urban, well and good. But if not, then we need to be remembering that we're missing a whole 70% of the population.
Wow.
We are very, as Kenyans, we are also very woke or exposed to what is happening in the rest of the world. It doesn't mean that we adapt easily to European standards or American trends. It just means we know what is happening. And so we're very curious people. And that makes interesting from a marketing perspective. If a marketer only takes stuff that comes from a global office and tries to just quickly adapt, not even adapt, just apply them in Kenya, then you'd be getting something wrong. Because people will be aware about that specific trend, but not necessarily relating to it or feeling like it's part of them. And so if you're thinking of conversion and really, evoking emotion, that might not necessarily work. Kenyans are also very communal, including the younger generation. So we still have quite a number of us Kenyans who have two homes. So you have your urban home and then you have your rural home. During key holidays or festive periods, like the one we're celebrating today, which is Eid for the Muslim population, or Christmas, people still tend to visit their rural homes and be together as a community and just hang out and have that festive time together as family. So we're still preserving a bit of our tradition while still being very exposed to the Europe and the America or trends that are coming, including now China as well.
Wow.
Then probably I would say is that, and especially if there's any marketers who would listen to this, that the Harambee spirit, and I'll just use the local word, the Harambee spirit, which is a spirit of collectively helping each other, is still very right. So in the past, the Kenyan culture was about this person is having a challenge, let's just pull together resources, let's get it sorted, right?
Yes.
And that has not disappeared. If I can give an example, years ago, 20 or so years ago, people would come together before a wedding happens and do what we used to call a pre-wedding, to ask people to give resources towards your wedding. Today, that is happening differently. It's happening through M-Pesa, right?
Yes.
So people will not be called into a room to do the pre-wedding, but they'll open an M-Pesa till number or pay bill, and they'll say, if you wish to give towards this event or a funeral, a wedding, or even just, someone is hospitalized, it's still happening. The Harambee spirit is still part of Kenya and Kenyans. It's just that it has evolved.
Wow, that's wonderful. You talked a lot about what's unique and the challenges and opportunities in Kenya. And of course, what other headquarters or other countries get wrong about Kenya. Do you have any funny story you can share with us about what, or like any good story about people getting something really wrong when doing research or collecting insights in Kenya?
Yes, I'm sure there would be one. Okay, so I would think probably in my days at the beverage company, and we probably want to launch a small, affordable pack. And we do the research. We also look at other past research, the retail audit, pricing work that we've done, and we're like, okay, the 20 shilling is a magic price point, and therefore, from an affordability perspective, this would be the right pack, the right price point. Therefore, let's launch it in sort of high density areas, right?
Yeah.
Maybe what we would call, informally would call the slum areas, right? And the rural, so that then we can capture that market socioeconomic class. And unfortunately, when you launch the product and it's not moving, then you realize the value conversation is completely different when you move out of the urban cities.
Right.
When you go into rural, when you go deep into the slum areas or the high density areas, the conversation about value is very different. It's not about ensuring that you can buy a 20 shillings bottle of soda or beverage. It's that 20 shillings that's going to be used to cover your skuma wiki, what we call skuma wiki, it's kale, which is going to be 5 shillings a day. It's going to be oil that is just measured enough for the day, sold, in mLs. It's going to be flour that is measured. And so the 20 shillings or 30 shillings is a completely different value conversation, right?
Yes.
For that rural customer or the urban or the slum dweller or, other Kenyans who are in such situations. And so you get back to your books and you're like, or your computer, and you're like, okay, we really must revisit the targets that we had on this particular innovation or this particular path, because it's not gonna, when you think about the daily disposable income, they're living hand to mouth. And so the 20 shillings might sound affordable, but it's not gonna be an everyday drink. It's not gonna be an even weekly drink. It's probably going to be an occasional drink where they take during a festive period. So when we used to run the brand health tracker, when you have your past 7 days, past 4 weeks and monthlies, and then you have your past 12 months, which is just your trial. Sometimes you just had to put a specific cohort of the population to be just the trial, which is, have you ever tried it in the last 12 months? And it could be just that Christmas and an urban family member who brought it back home. And so you actually didn't end up buying it yourself.
Oh,
So interesting concepts on value especially. And it's even more even where I am currently from a techno perspective.
and now, because you have worked with different countries as well, based in Nairobi, but doing research in other countries in Africa. In Latam, I see a lot of people thinking about, oh, you were in Brazil, so how is the market in Argentina? How is the market in Mexico? And I'm always saying it's a different country, different language, different perspective. Everything is different. So I would assume that you also feel the same in Africa, like you live in Kenya, but you did research in many other African countries. How was that? What were the challenges that you faced when doing this?
Let me give an example of one that really sticks to me, and I can give more than one, but this one I do remember very clearly. Is a time when I had to work on some work within the islands, so Mauritius and also Madagascar.
Yep.
Okay. So there's also Comoros, but let me just talk about that. We actually never visited Comoros, but there's Madagascar and Mauritius. So it's very many times we assume that Madagascar and Mauritius are the same.
Yeah.
They're combined as islands. Even in reporting, they're just
Wow.
combined as the islands of Africa. Until I visited Cynthia, I mean, it was very eye-opening. You visit Mauritius and you see completely different side of life when you go to Madagascar.
Wow.
Madagascar, poverty is right in front of your eyes. Unemployment is right in front of your eyes. And so, to your question, when I sit in Nairobi, without having visited the two distinct islands, I would have continued combining their reports to say, these are just, they're the islands of Africa, and this is a perception of, different brands. This is a psyche of this particular customer having been an island, wherever these are their demographics. Until you visit and you actually see the reality that they're the islands, but they're completely different. And so sometimes I think as researchers, maybe strategists, as marketers, or people who sit in central offices or headquarters, you can assume so much of other markets. Another example I would give is actually DR Congo, so Democratic Republic of Congo, and also Congo Brazzaville. So they share a name, Congo and Congo, and you'd think exactly the same. And you're just crossing one river to go to the other market. They are completely different. Years ago when I visited DRC, and I know now it has improved, unemployment, young men would open the door for you in order for you to give them a tip. And that would make the money for the day. Congo Brazzaville, higher, slightly more affluent than DRC then. And it's very easy, again, for us to have combined these two markets to say the Congos are like this, but very, very different needs. Again, if I go back to just the value conversation or the day-to-day of what motivates a DR Congo customer versus a Congo Brazzaville customer is completely, completely different. You can assume a lot, even from what you read online, and assume that these markets are the same. And it's very easy to mislead the business if you don't let the locals inform you. So work with trustworthy agencies in market. Let them do, video calls or market tours if you're not able to travel. And that's the benefit of technology. Let them do market visits for you on video virtually so that then you can actually see what exactly is happening. Ask questions on, is this the upside of the market? Which part of the market is this? So that you can truly understand. Another recent example, some work I was doing for one of the marketers here at Safaricom, and we were just exploring a low-cost, product, tech product. And we decided to visit the biggest slum area or high-density area in Nairobi, which is called Kibera. And, the agency that I worked with then, because it was a quick work, or sometimes we say quick and dirty, they were able to go to one side of Kibera. And when we looked at the results, we were like, oh, okay, very positive. Why don't we can almost launch tomorrow? Let's go and tell the business this and this. Until we reflected back and asked a few questions to people who actually even live there, people who are working in our offices and our support staff, maybe they live in the periphery, or maybe they came from there. Maybe some of them even have relatives who still live there. And they're like, no, that's just one side of Kibera. You need to go to this other side and really find out what the perceptions are and what the need is. And so it's one small area geographically. Me sitting centrally at the headquarters in Westlands of Nairobi and not trusting or doing the groundwork to go to Kibera itself and visit the different small clusters within Kibera, it's very easy to mislead the business. And so let's do the work from a research perspective. Let's do the work in terms of get our hands dirty,
Yeah, that's
go into the market, walk the customer's journey, truly walk the customer's journey. Ethnography needs to be even more elevated now when you think about it. And in the absence of an actual physical visit, technology is there, right? And the benefit of just having partners all over, they're independent researchers, they're university students who you can collaborate with, teach a few things and just say, okay, I need you to go and look for this. They may not know the end to end. In the process, you'll be able to, if you guide them well, you'll be able to really just get insights of what the customers truly feel, what their sentiment is, what their motivations are, and their way of life.
Yes, I feel this. And you were talking about technology and how technology can help us and help understanding, like it really help research as a field, like overcome some barriers of distance, of traveling budgets and everything. Now, talk to me about your experience with research technology. Have you ever used or tried to use any tools or any risk tech tools or platforms for research? And how was your experience with them?
Okay, so let me start on a positive note.
Yeah.
So for Safaricom being the biggest company in Kenya, but also as a market leader, there's a lot that is said about Safaricom online, right? From a social
Yes.
media perspective. And so one of the tools that we actually use internally is a real-time social media or social sentiment monitor. And the current partner is Meltwater, but we've also worked with other agencies on the same, but current partner is Meltwater. And anytime, like right now, if something was to, if let's say a political leader was to say something around Safaricom, I would immediately go to that platform and be able to start seeing exactly what the sentiment is. Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it picking virality? And then, quickly guide the PR and the marketing team to respond to that.
Yeah.
And, assuming, let's say we have downtime. So, and God forbid, like for M-Pesa, because, M-Pesa is like the engine of Kenya at the moment. If M-Pesa goes down, even just for a few seconds, but people are not able to make their mobile transactions, their payment, of course, people will go to X, formerly known as Twitter, and start stalking. And we're easily able to, of course, we have our own internal monitoring of our systems on, anything that would lead to a downtime. But from a social sentiment perspective, we can also be able to quickly monitor that and sort of nip it in the bud before it goes too negative. And so tech that is founded on tech, right?
Yep.
Meltwater sit in a different part of the world, and they're able to use technology for us to have a platform that can be able to give me real-time sentiment. Otherwise, if it was in the past, I would be picking my phone, trying to look through X or Twitter. I go to Facebook, then I go to TikTok, and it would be just such a tiresome kind of an experience or
Yes.
exercise. And likely because your feed is based on your interests, it might be showing me the wrong things, right? So because there's my work life and then there's a social life. It might be showing me, I don't know, fashion and music and gospel. And at this particular time, I would be wanting to see something around M-Pesa, which now it wouldn't work. So from a tech perspective, social sentiments, real-time tracking is working really for us very well. Then we also have internal platforms where we can actually do SMS-based service, real-time service with our customers. So for example, for our Journey NPS, Journey Net Promoter Score. So anytime our customer completes any interaction with us, not just a transaction, any interaction with Safaricom or M-Pesa, any of it, within seconds, you receive an SMS back to you that asks you, how was your experience with us today? And it's sent to your mobile phone, regardless of whether it's a feature phone or a smartphone. And so research technology, this is where we've reached. And every day, my team is able to send me a link to say, these are the sentiments around this particular product or this. So it's real time, and technology has really helped us to be able to do that. Currently, as I told you, traveling at the southern part of our country, and we're executing celebrations of M-Pesa being 18 years. We've just made it as an adult. We have real-time feedback from our customers and the customers we're engaging with on the ground.
Yes.
Why? Because we have a QR code. Say, okay, please answer, please scan this and answer it. And for those who do not have smartphones that can be able to scan a QR code, we just hand them a handheld device and they're able to, quickly do that. In some cases, depending on the area we also have researchers who, actually help aid the questioning. And when I sit in Nairobi, I can be able to say, today, our experience NPS or our event NPS was at 90 or 92%. And then tomorrow, we want to be able to get to 95%. What do we need to do differently? So from an agile perspective, because we're also an organization that has adapted agile ways of working, that really helps. So when the team meets as a squad to say, what are we doing differently tomorrow? What can we improve on? That work just comes to life and we're able to inform. Those are just, simple examples, but of course there's way more that we also do with the agencies here, Ipsos, Kantar, many of our other partners.
Good. Do you normally go for the big global ones like Ipsos and Kantar? Or do you also have interaction with the startups or smaller companies in the risk tech area?
So we do work with the wide range of agencies. We are working with the Ipsos, we're working with Kantar, we're working with Nielsen, the big three within this market. And then we're still working with slightly smaller agencies like BTC. We're working with them. We're working with actionable AI, who are getting into that AI space and really challenging us on adopting AI within the market research space. Yeah, so we do work with,
Cool.
as long as there's something different, as long as it's technology and digital forward, we're happy to listen and partner.
What is missing from the tools and platforms that you've seen until now?
I think I would say is whoever is out there from an innovation perspective who can help us to understand that rural customer or lower bottom of the pyramid customer who still does not have a smartphone. But in a way, how can we still get our feedback from them in a real-time perspective would win. So whichever innovator is going to come quickly with that, I think might be able to sort of win the market. Having said that, I think some of the traditional ways of research are still very critical, but it's more how we adapt technology into that. So earlier I mentioned about ethnography. So how do we get to truly understand the lives of our customers? And traditionally, what we have done is go directly into markets, which no one has budgets for that anymore. I also handle the Ethiopian market from a research perspective, and I can't keep going there every month. It's expensive. And so how do we adapt technology to do market visits, to do immersions? Even if it's not real time, it can still be recorded and sent back to me, and I can have time to review it and watch over it, and then do it with a moderator who was on the ground, then so that then I can understand the nuances, right?
Yes.
How do we also, and this will also eventually help AI, sharpen AI, because today, if you try to use AI fully for market research in Africa, you might fail quite a bit. And I think our shared friend DJ would be able to speak about that.
Yeah.
We need to invite him. We cannot use 100% AI currently in Africa. But the more we use technology to feed into AI, to feed into the nuances, to feed new languages, Swahili in Kenya, Pidgin English in Nigeria, in Lagos, South Africa, it would be, what do they call the English there? But it's like, it's English, but it's different.
Yes.
And so once we start feeding this into AI, and of course that has to be done through technology, then we get sharper and we make our work easier, because AI is supposed to come and make our work easier and sharper, more efficient. It will not replace human insights. to not replace the HI. AI will complement HI. Right?
Yes.
Another example I would give, in the East Africa region, including parts of Central, we speak Swahili.
Yeah.
But the Swahili in Kenya is very different from the Swahili in Tanzania. We are neighboring countries. It's very different from what is spoken in Rwanda. It's also very different from what's spoken in DR Congo.
Wow.
So, and Uganda also speak a bit of Swahili, but not much. But it's it's Swahili, but it's completely different. We need to start feeding AI so that then eventually we can truly complement HI with AI.
I'm with you on that one. When people ask me, "Oh, do you speak Portuguese so you understand people from Portugal?" It's a completely different Portuguese as well. So we need to look into that and really have this fine tuning in the AI platforms and tools. What is the coolest thing about AI for market research that you heard of, you used, or you were curious about?
It's the simplest thing.
Oh, really?
This is the simplest, but I think for us, it just makes a lot of sense. So, when we used to do traditionally and in the past, we used to go talk to talk to respondents, and you get a lot of the open ends,
Yeah.
right? The verbatim.
Yes.
And we used to do, okay, then you start doing your coding work, you're grouping them, and you have such a long list. And of course, at some point, there are errors. And you, as a research manager, sometimes have to ask for that Excel sheet with the dump.
Yes.
And it used to be such a long. Today, with AI, you just feed in, as long as it's typed clean, feed it in, and it will give you the themes.
Yes. It's amazing.
It's just the sentiment, and it has made work that we used to take, I don't know, days to do.
Yes, I think days
can be done within an hour. As long as your Excel sheet is clean, it's been typed out well, just feed it into AI, including the open AI. And I mean, like, you can just use ChatGPT or Gemini or, DeepSeek, and it will just give you the themes. And your work, of course, after that, you don't just send it to your internal client as it is.
Yes.
You, of course, have to go through it. Does it make sense? Because as I said earlier, it's supposed to complement the human insights. So that is just one example. And for me, it's the simplest, but just it's become the most efficient way of processing verbatim.
I've spent like days of my life cracking out code books and trying to make sense of a lot of words, and we didn't have anything to help. But now it's really made our works easier. We still have to learn a lot about how to work with it. I had an experience last year. We did some survey about the awareness of companies, insights companies in the world. And we learned the hard way how to make the questions, how to clean the data before using the tools. But once you get there, it's amazing. I love that. Nyambura, it's been
Absolutely.
a pleasure. It's amazing to talk to you every time I get wowed. Like, it's really nice. I could spend hours talking to you, but I'm conscious you also have a lot of things to do. So I will close this with 3 very quick rapid fire questions for you. What's your favorite research methodology?
Oh my God. Supposed to be, well, let me say qualitative from a broad perspective.
Good. Why do you love qualitative?
It truly answers the why sometimes. And I'm quant oriented, by the way, but
Really?
I'm also very comfortable with quali. But it truly answers the why and the deeper issues that you need as a marketer or a strategist to answer for your brand to actually win.
Yeah, that's true. What's the most exciting trend in the market research area today?
Adoption of AI, curiosity around AI, just willingness to adopt tech, in research. The ones who do not adopt tech and AI are the ones who are going to be left behind. So quite exciting.
And now, a piece of advice for someone just starting or stumbling through the market research career today.
Absolutely. And this I'm passionate about, but just allow yourself to learn end-to-end research. It is not a disservice to you from a human dignity perspective to do interviewing or design a questionnaire or go and do a business to business interview and be paid whatever it is that you're paid. But it really makes sense if you understand end-to-end research. If you want to start at report writing level, you'll write reports that truly do not make sense because then you didn't understand how the question was designed against client objectives and all that. If you have the benefit of skipping some steps, pick a few, allow yourself the experience of going back, accompanying your researchers to the ground and hear what the respondents or the customers are saying. So allow yourself to start from scratch. It is the one area, just like I think when you're in medicine, you really just must start from the basics, right? And then progressively move into something that is higher professionally. That it makes you a good researcher. So have the patience to do it.
Amazing. Wow, I'm amazed, Nyambura. I would like to thank everyone listening to us today. Welcome to the Insights from Elsewhere podcast. We aim to understand countries and regions that are beyond the big research market. So if you know anyone that would have great experience to share with us, please just send us an indication. Today we talked to Nyambura Mambo. She's the head of market research and customer insights at Safaricom, the biggest network provider in Kenya and a big player in Africa. And she shared her amazing story, how she got into market research, her experience with different roles, different areas, different countries in Africa, and her perspective on how AI can help us out with basic and also complex tasks in market research. Wow, it was really a masterclass, Nyambura. Thank you so much for being here with us today. It was really good to connect with you.
Thank you for having me, Cynthia, and looking forward to even more conversation.
For sure. Stay tuned for the next and upcoming episodes. And thank you for listening this episode. Subscribe to Insight Platforms to get more information about our podcasts and webinars, events, and news about the ResTech world. Just sign up in our landing page and get them straight into your email every week. Goodbye and thank you all.